All right, everyone. My name is John Agri. I'm the founder and CEO of Hired Consult and also a member of Friends for Leadership. I have here Oluwatosi Ogunsola, who will briefly also introduce himself. Olua, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're joining in from. Sorry, I couldn't connect on my system, but I think this is fine also. I hope you can hear myself. Okay,
Yes.
This is Oluwatosin Ogunshola. I will be co-moderating this section today with my very good friend, John Agri. Yeah, that is just the little bit about me. So let's get to it. Thank you. It will be nice to engage with you all today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Oluwatosi, for this. Today, we are here to talk about a very passionate topic that is all about the food systems, transformational changes in bolstering African food systems. With a pre-summit over and also with a main food system summit that has also been announced. The question is, are we ready? And after the summit, what next? And today we have wonderful people in our midst who are going to share thoughts and ideas on this. And it is very true that the disruptions to food systems caused by COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerabilities in our food systems across many African countries. And with this, the continent is facing a looming food crisis in addition to the health and economic stress. As food systems heroes, as youth who are championing the transformational and robust, resilient food systems, what that does mean for us in the present case and the future generations. Once again, I want to acknowledge our partners, GACSA, that is Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, Friends for Leadership, Food at COP, African Climate Reality Project, YOUNGO, all in support of the United Nations Food Systems Summit 2021. And this has and is hosted by Hired Consult and the major group for children and youth, that is the focus group for the UN Food Systems Summit. Thank you once again, everyone, for making it here today. So I will go straight to point and say, and we have an amazing person in our midst, Caroline, an amazing personality who is championing. No, I think I will leave that to her to share her thoughts on what they are championing. So, and also we have Ibrahim Ramadan, also among us, another impressive and prolific speaker. He is the senior project manager at the Ministry of Finance Egypt, Office of the Minister. Also representing YOUNGO Agriculture Working Group is Emily Dola, and also the founder of Kipsumu Environmental Champs, representing Food at COP, that's Ramina Paulette. And then Dean Beba from the Africa Climate Reality Project. He is the campaign's coordinator. Once again, thank you very much, everyone. And we also have all the way from Asia Pacific representative, Maya, who is also a member of Friends for Leadership. And welcome, Theophilus. One thing about our dialogue is that it is inclusive. So we have a sign language person here with us who is also going to give us interpretation as we speak. And thank you for coming on board, Denny. Thank you, everyone. Yes, we have in our midst Dean, all the way from South Africa, representing the Climate Reality Project. Once again, everyone, thank you for making this. So as way of introduction, the Simon has sent a video recording, which I would like us to listen to for now. And from there, we'll move on to next presentation on board. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's hear from Simon.
Hello, thank you so much once again for the invitation, John, Esther. Thank you very much. I'm Simon Lieber, the coordinator of the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, GACSA, that is hosted by the UNFAO. And I wanted to be here today again to somehow encourage everyone to be yourselves and take all your filters out, because we need your feedback. We have hosted and co-hosted more than 40 independent dialogues with GACSA and its members. And what we learned is the importance of bringing all different voices in this table. So please say what you think, just say it. Don't be afraid. We need new ideas. We need to hear your voices, and without or questions, there are no wrong question or statements. It's important that you connect with that. What we also learned that we can reach policymakers. That is easier for what we think. Sometimes we think that it's impossible to reach out to them for help, for collaboration, but it's not. You can actually see now how we work collaboratively. And the third one that we learned is the importance of getting as much as collaboration as possible. The concept of the multi-stakeholder approach. Also, it's not that with the Food System Summit, everything ends up here. So what we'll be doing is it's a long journey. Then after the summit, it will be the pre-COP and the COP 26. So we will bring all these key points to those important meetings. So just a thank you once again from the bottom of my heart, and take home message that be yourselves, bring all your ideas to the table. And thank you once again, John, Esther, for making this happen. All the best. Thank you. Bye.
All right, people. So that was the brief notes from Simon about his introduction. He says, be yourself. Remove the filter and speak naturally, because whatever is discussed here will be added to the feedback and sent to the UN Food Systems Secretariat. So be yourself, speak naturally, and don't be copious. This is a space for all. Thank you very much. Let me also acknowledge Kevin for coming, Matthias as well, and one of our core members, Yola, for joining us today. Now, before we proceed, we have an amazing personality here who is representing the Food at COP, and it will interest you to know that she is 15 years back a founder and has done an amazing things back home. So today she's here to share with everyone what she's been doing and why she's here, and also put at COP a few notes from Caroline. So without much ado, I will ask Madam Emily and also to have Rahina. These two personalities are going to share their few words in a minute, who they are, why they are here, before we get to the presentation. Thank you very much. So who wants to go first? Rahina, I think you can go first. You can unmute and speak. Please, yes.
Hello.
Yes, we
I'm
can hear
Ramina
you.
Paulette. Okay, hello, I'm Ramina Paulette. I'm a campaigner at Food at COP26. I'm really glad to be here.
All right.
Let me just share my screen, if you don't mind.
Yes, please. Do share your screen.
So here's Food at COP26. It's a YOUNGO agriculture work project. What is the campaign about? The campaign is about advocating for climate change events, which should be served climate-friendly food, building from a number of similar campaigns at youth-led movement, calling for all the food served in conferences to be 100% plant-based. During the COP25 in Madrid, individuals from YOUNGO and also Hello by 50 by 40 concerned about the climate impact of together in hopes to align sustainability values through campaigns. The plant-based foods are overwhelming, recognizing, and it's important that COP walks the talk, even in the United Nations events. We believe it's vitally important for COP26 to pull out this. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm
you are
having
loud
some
and clear.
background noise. Oh, sorry. So food at COP26 is really sensitizing on using serving plant-based food in the conferences. And if I can relate it to what we're talking about during the campaigns, we're really sensitizing most of the young people and also everyone from around the world to join our campaign, which is you can do it as an online petition, tag us on your social media, the campaign, on events, article, and also discussions with COP26 food team members. Younger children and youth constituency to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFSS, consists of youth-led organizations, groups, delegations, and individuals working in climate change-related fields. A current campaign within YOUNGO's Agriculture Working Group, Food at COP, calls for plant-based menu at the upcoming UNFSS Conference of the Parties, which is COP. These young people believe that food is critical for tackling the climate crisis, and the leaders at the COP should set an example with meals that are considerate of resource use, greenhouse emissions, biodiversity, and community impacts. If I can relate it to my country, Kenya, we're taking indigenous vegetables which are readily available, like cowpeas leaves, amaranthus, spider plant, black nightshade, which we call in our mother tongue managu, and crotalaria, which is mto in our Swahili language. It's much tastier than others and has a nutritional value of the indigenous vegetable, which is high. They're readily available, they grow in the wild, while those we plant does not require much agronomic practices like weeding. Agriculture here in Kenya is rain-fed, and that makes us to have most of the plant-based foods to be avocados, which is readily available. That is why we're really sensitizing on using plant-based foods instead of other foods like meat and flesh, white meat, beet, red meat. Kindly join our campaign, which is Food at COP26, so that you may reach the global audience in order to stop other meals from being offered in the COP26, instead using plant-based foods to be taken as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ramina, for that inspiring youth-led campaign that you are doing. But if I may ask, how is the campaign going, and what is really the motivation behind this campaign? What do you want to see the youth doing with this campaign, and what exactly do we want to achieve? You can stop sharing now. Okay. So, Caroline, would you want to take this up?
I will answer very quickly, but I want Romina to
Okay,
answer. Just
perfect.
that the campaign is because this I'm not an African and this isn't about African food systems. Just that the campaign, we think it's symbolic, as Romina said. We think it's very symbolic for the food served at the big climate conference to represent kind of ambitious climate action. And while we recognize that diets are individual and are based on culture and religion and all sorts of things, and availability, that the UK is a quite, is a wealthy country, has a number of resources and a number of diverse agricultural systems. And we think that it is very feasible for them to provide nutritious, culturally appropriate, diverse plant-based food. And that be symbolic for, that they're serious about climate action. But yeah, that's all I want to say. I would love for Romina to add to that. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Caroline. Over to you, Romina.
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. Well, in regarding to COP26, food at COP26, in most of the events that has happened in concerning with COP, it deals with genetic modified foods. And by this, you're trying to bring out that aspect of using indigenous foods like vegetables to be served there, since also there are some of the meals that are very expensive. And in relation with Africa, most of the expensive foods are like meat and other types of food. But here in Africa, we majorly focus on eating vegetables, which is readily available and is quite cheaper.
Thank you very much for that inspiring answer to that. And we are hoping that at COP26, Food at COP is going to make its take, and we're going to have the best results and intervention as possible, where we can share to the global community that we did this and we made it happen. Thank you so much, Romina, for this. Thank you. All right, so Emily, over to you. I think I will leave it to you to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and also your message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agri, and thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today. My name is Emily Bobo Dombaksedola, and I'm here as a member of the YOUNGO Agriculture Working Group. For those of you who don't know, YOUNGO is the youth constituency to the UNFSS policy, and it's how youth try to get involved, particularly in climate policy at the UN level. So apart from being a member of YOUNGO, I'm also part of the UK Youth Climate Coalition, and currently I work as a storytelling program director for Youth for Nature, which is a global youth-led organization that advocates for solutions to the climate and biodiversity crisis, which are rooted in nature and in ecological justice and science and local and community health knowledge. So that's a bit about what I do and a bit about me. Normally, when I work in the climate justice space, I tend to focus particularly on adaptation and resilience, on food systems and agriculture, which I'm quite passionate about. I have spoken in various talks and everything about already by now. And then also in just transition and labor issues, as well as like social justice through an intersectional lens. So that's normally what I focus on. So I have been part by now of like another food system dialogue, and I have been part of so many conversations around climate and food since I first joined the climate movement in 2018. And it's something that I feel like very passionate about, both from a personal perspective as well as like an activist and someone working in this sphere. I think that's something I always found interesting from all these events I go, that everyone agrees that we have to transform the food systems. Nobody's saying like, oh no, the way we are working right now we're working well. Everyone knows there needs to be transformations to the food systems. Then what begins these agreements maybe is how we can do that, because people have very different visions, like how the food system should look like. And normally from YOUNGO perspective, normally the agriculture working group, we think about a food system that first of all works with nature. So we normally want to see agroecological approaches to producing food, particularly Embed, as well as like concepts like in which young people in local communities, including young people, can own the food systems, which means like having the idea of like food sovereignty is quite important a lot of times, particularly for people and the local communities to be able to see how they own, how they have an impact on how food is produced, consumed, and like recycled or like wasted, which shouldn't be in their communities. So yeah, the principles of like food sovereignty, the principles of agroecology, really important, like what we like to be in a future food system. And also like we really want an inclusive food system. That means that particularly we focus a lot on subsistence farmers and subsistence pastoralist as well. We really want to focus a lot on like how local people are living on how they produce food and how they can distribute it. Also including a lot of the women, because we know that a lot of the food across the world is produced by women, and that maybe includes both through paid and through unpaid labor. Out of it is unpaid labor. And this particularly applies to Africa, because in Africa, agriculture is a huge part of most countries' GDP economy. And if it's not agriculture, it's other parts of the food system, like for example, fishing. So it's a really big important part, but a lot of the labor that is performed in these food systems often is not simply like paid labor or like wage labor, but also can be unpaid or can be labor that is based on a different arrangements where you're just giving someone a wage. So we want to make sure that when we are thinking of transforming the food system, these different people who have like different approaches to labor and different approaches to producing and consuming food are not left behind. Because a lot of times in these wider, bigger meetings, you always have like representatives from like this wider agricultural corporation, like from these governments, they're always there, but sometimes the small scale voices, people who are working on the land, they are not necessarily there well represented. And the last thing for us is really important to see young people being part of food systems, because there's a huge assumption that young people are not interested on food systems, particularly on agriculture. Young people are just leaving agriculture sector and leaving rural areas for something, a cooler job or something in cities. And even if it is a trend to understand, we need to understand also that the food system sector, particularly agriculture, is a sector that historically has had a lot of baggage in terms of like there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of like unpaid conditions, slave-like conditions that have shaped the food systems, particularly agriculture, throughout centuries and centuries. So in order to be able to, so that young people want to get involved in, first we have to examine the conditions that are happening in the system. Like, is the paid good? Are the conditions, particularly thinking about climate change, extreme weather conditions, heat waves? How do we feel our young people working under the sun, for example, for so many hours? Like maybe they saw their parents and their elders working in those conditions and ending up with a lot of like health issues, and they don't want the same for them. So we have to think about what are the conditions in food systems, and not even in agriculture, but even in like processing plants as well. Even in places like the USA or across Europe, the conditions can be really harsh and really badly paid. So we need to understand that before we are like, okay, we have to try to include young people in the food systems. We have to understand critically why we might not be part of it always, and like how can it be improved, particularly from the bottom up, bringing those youth voices and being like the voices from the communities on the ground. So that's a bit my message. With mixed things, but for us, particularly in YOUNGO, we value having agroecological approach, food sovereignty, and we value putting at the center those who work on the food systems, particularly those who are normally marginalized from these spaces of decision making.
Thank you so much, Emily, for this detailed narration. But then if I may, I want to ask you further about your work as a young agriculturist. What are the opportunities this summit has offered you? And after the summit, what do you intend to do?
Answer the question. So far, I have been able to be part of different conversations and different dialogues happening. I wasn't able to attend like the pre-summit in Rome, but what the main opportunity I have had is being able to meet with people and learn what everyone is doing in their countries, and see how everyone has the same passion to move forward, and being able to build connections and be part of spaces in which people might be able to help you outside. Because I think the biggest opportunity that we can all take away from these dialogues is that even regardless of what happens in the summit, we all have the opportunity to make change that we have been discussing in these meetings. If after these dialogues, we are able to like meet up and to have discussions and to bring campaigns together. Like I saw the beginnings, for example, of the Food at COP campaign in COP 25. So now seeing it going full steam is like really exciting, seeing how those connections you made in a conference grow and grow into like a bigger campaign that's happening with potential to make change. So I think the biggest opportunities for young people who are passionate about food systems in these dialogues is actually all the discussions we have, all the connections we make here, we can take them outside from here, we can take them forward and work on those campaigns on the back end. And then when these bigger summits happen, like COP or Food System Summit happening in New York, we can just bring our campaigns, bring our action, and bring our voices in a more unified way for change. So I think that those connections are the best opportunities, and the ability to like push going from connections to collaborative action. I think that's the best opportunities this summit has brought so far in terms of dialogues.
Thank you so much, Emily, for this. As she has rightly said, it does not really end at a summit. Afterward, the question is, what do we do from there? It is where the global community, the youth, we can build synergies from what we have learned, push the campaigns forward, and make sure every discussion at the table is put into action. Normally, at the end of the day, you have a booklet of 200 pages of intervention of the youth discussion, and it just sits on the shelf. It's added to the archives. The question is, what next? This time, we are calling for the government, we're calling on the political leaders, the stakeholders, and everyone involved, especially the UN Food System Secretariat, to make sure whatever is discussed at the table is put into force, bearing in mind the youth played a contributing factor. Thank you so much, Emily, for today. You've made me happy, and I'm happy as well to have you here with us. So stay back, we'll continue the discussion. Let's move on to another person among us. He's Dean Baby. He is the Africa Climate Reality Project Campaigns Coordinator, representing the African Climate Reality Project. Dean, you are welcome on board. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, John. Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as you are attending from different parts of the world. Such an honor to be amongst great people doing amazing stuff. And it's lovely to see the youth taking such a big stand as we try and fix the environment in the presence of an ongoing climate crisis. But just to kick things off, I just wanted to fundamentally describe about the current food system that we are currently living in, which is highlighted really by two main features, which is number one, Africa's particulars agro-food system experiencing a high rise in food and also fuel prices. And you then note that there's a big then disconnect concerning then agricultural policies and land. And then that becomes very important to try and unlock that disconnect, to try and establish the reasons as to why our food system is structured as a whole. So in particular, for example, the issues of land reform have become quite a big debate in Africa, even post-colonial period. And this to a large extent fundamentally constitutes elements that really aid and make inequality of food within the food system prevalent. So we see Africa under the current food system facing several challenges. So it goes beyond just the political and social, with even land reform being one of the most dominant issues, as the plight to create an inclusive food system really prevails in Africa as a whole, because it seems, there may be, for example, the presence of climate change, but then that also intersects with land distribution through liberalization, because there's been an increased efficiency through vertical integration where the different value chains have failed to address the needs of the poor and the landless. And the ones that actually do have the land are very highly commercialized and industrialized, such that the manner to which they produce or manufacture food in Africa, number one, it might not be healthy. Number two, it might not be a manner that interacts with the environment in a very friendly and safe way, which sees us in a space where we see that intersecting climate change and how it also furthers the core that we are not necessarily in control of the food systems that we are currently functioning in, because we don't seem to have control over the how we produce our food, how we manufacture it, and how we distribute it. And all these elements then keep on aiding to the big inequality gap that we see in Africa, that has aided even hunger to a larger extent, and also aided the ongoing climate crisis that we've seen reveal itself through hard climatic shocks. And here for us here at ACRP, as we look ahead of COP26, we want to change the discussion and try and understand how can we bring examples such as nature-based solutions into the national agenda? How can we politicize it in order for nature-based solutions to be viewed as a climate hero? Because we want to look on the days ahead to ground ourselves on 4 key messages on nature-based solutions. Now, when I do talk of nature-based solutions, I'm talking about sustainable practices such as agroecology, as my previous speakers mentioned. And how can we use that as a weapon, to mitigate and deliver a cross-cutting benefit analysis for climate change mitigation, resilience, and adaptation? So our 4 messages as we move on to COP26 as ACRP is, how do we increase awareness about nature-based solutions for climate change mitigation and adaptation? We want to see that this is very important because there's a very little understanding of nature-based solutions, and that combined with climate mitigation, adaptation, disaster risk reduction, biodiversity conservation, sustainability, resource management, all those become quite important. And on that backdrop, as an organization, we're currently hosting within the week a training workshop with members from South, West, East, and West Africa on nature-based solutions, on how they can use those practices such as permaculture, organic farming, agroecology, how to use those practices as a mitigating factor in order to tackle the ongoing climate crisis. We want to, as we build ahead COP26, to showcase the relevant stakeholders, how nature-based solutions like agroforestry can help us restore our ecosystems and protect and interact nicely with carbon sinks, and how that as well have cross-benefiting benefits for both climate change mitigation and adaptation. We want to, ahead of COP26, embed nature-based solutions into policy, because we see many governments still need to scale up efforts to include nature-based solutions within their national plans and other climate development strategies. So we want to raise the ambition for NBS by calling on the government to integrate these approaches into planning and decision-making processes. We want to put sustainable agriculture and forest management into operation at both local and national levels by aligning the national development plans and agricultural policies with countries' nationally determined contributions as part of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals. We also want to, through this, increase local training and support for the adaptation of sustainable management practice, because there's a strong need to restore, how we manage and produce our food in Africa. And this can be done by supporting sustainable agricultural practices I mentioned earlier on, such as permaculture and agroecology. We also want to, ahead of COP26, really embed interstate policy on how they can enforce and the underlying causes, conditions that cause land degradation, for example, and how the government may try and establish frameworks that may enforce that, and how those policies and government structures will then look like on how to reduce the pressures on Africa's land and food systems while promoting sustainable alternatives such as agroecology. African governments can also increase their support of the core and really try and align with most civil society organizations when looking at this. And this also speaks to how we also need to increase investment into how we look at nature-based solutions, how we look at sustainable management practices, and that fundamentally will try and boost green investments, and which should not only just aid the ecosystem and also aid the food system as a whole, but it will also increase people's health and global and local economies. So as climate change impacts become more and more severe, the need for robust public financing really from government is even greater. So there's a need for a greater commitment from governments along with development finance institutions like the African Development Bank to take practical actions such as I said, increasing the investment into sustainable practices within the food system, because we need nature-based solutions because they are the backbone of sustainable investment. I think that's where we end for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Dean. You have really made that very strong point about nature-based solutions for people and for planet. And as rightly said, nature-based solutions are actions to protect and sustainably manage and restore our natural resources and the ecosystems, and effectively and adaptively, and simultaneously providing human beings and biodiversity the benefits needed. And I like your point that you stated about what the need for climate and finance in order to sustain campaigns, in order to sustain projects, and in order to drive this climate emergency to get to the net zero. Once again, thank you so much. I'll come back to you again what you tell us a little brief about what exactly or who are the Africa Climate Reality Project, so that the participants can all know what is going on. Okay, people, once again, thank you very much, Dean, for this wonderful exposition. So we have the next person, Ibrahim. He's also here with us to do his next presentation. So over to you, Ibrahim.
Thank you, John, for your invitation, and you most welcome to the audience. And I will make a presentation, briefly presentation. It's not large. I am first thing I want to introduce myself, and as well John mentioned brief. I am Ibrahim Ramadan. I'm a senior project manager in Minister of Finance Egypt. I have 12 years old in technology field. Then the topic today will be go briefly how can the technology play an important role in the food systems. As well, I am TOT certified from NTA. This is the National Training Academy in Egypt. I am a project manager, certified PMP and ITIL, and I am a member in CPYP. I have a diploma and master. So my speech today about how technology had a big role in the food system. Then let's start with the questions for the audience. And I need to write in a chatbot. What are the components of the food system from your point of view or from thinking? Could you write in the chatbot, please? Anyone can help me to answer this question? Soil, water, Carolina, okay. Okay. John, water, people, okay. Anybody else? Transportation, okay. Energy, animals, okay. And all of us answering right wording. Then we can go to know what is the answer of this question. Thank you guys for our participating to answering these questions. We have another question after 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, then from my point of view, or from the researcher point of view, we have 4 pillars that contain the food system. One of them is production, and then the processing, it's for policy and the climate. And the third one is distributions, it's labor, energy, waster, a lot of things, as you mentioned in the chatbot. And the final one is the consumptions. This is the 4 pillar or 4 category or 4 components of food system. The technology play an fatal role in each component in the food system. We have a lot of technology, and as well, if you see in the COVID-19, the technology play an fatal role to facilitate the lifestyle of the people. Then the technology, it's a play a role in each component of the food system. Then last question, please help me to answer as well the first question. Did you think that the technology play an important role in the food, and how? The first one, we will get like a gift from John, not me. Okay. Yes, how? Okay, I am answering the first part of the questions. Then how the technology play an important role in the food system. I need to answer one word, like it's facilitate, yes, calorie, very good, excellent. Data, measurable, KPIs, okay, John, connecting the value chain food system, right. Okay, let me see this triangle. We have 3 pillars in the in this graph: customers, authorities, food business. Okay, each pillar have some function or some category, and in the triangle they digitalize food system like using big data, e-commerce, intelligence manufacturing, smart services. All of this, the technology play the role in the food system. If you go to the customer personal information, what is the personal information of this customer? Activity tracking, lifestyle, and authorities, management, control, official information, feedback. And if we go to the food business, we see the market transaction, food cost, intra-regional international business network. This is the pillar or the triangle of the food system, and how can the technology play an role. The latest technology, as you know, that like machine learning, big data, IoT, this is a new technology in the world. The food system use this technology to what? If I summarize the benefits of the food system, even for the individual or the countries, as Emily speaker said, that the food system will be like an in the country like GDP, it's an number in the country. And as well, if individual, it's if the quality and the quality of the food it's good, the people, it will be happy. Then finally, I will catch this quote from internet. This catch said that food system transformation present a complex challenges and requires a complex solutions involving multiple sector, industry, and stakeholders, all of whom arrive with far interesting. This complexity means business as usual is no longer an option. This is a very good quotes. Then I catch these quotes, and finally I have like two message or two key message in my presentation. We two messages. The first one, we thinking in the food system at a win-win situation. All stakeholders won. Then we need to think win-win situation in the food system. And the second key message, from my point of view, it's to make an incentives or something like to encourage the parties that participate in the food system style. Thank you. And if any questions, I am here, and this is my information. And again, thank you, John, for your invitation, and thank you, audience, for to listen to me. Again, thank you, and I am very happy to make this presentation in hired consult. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ibrahim Ramadan, for this interactive session, building between finance and technology, how they also affect the value chain of our food systems. Thank you very much. If anyone has questions, we'll soon get to that, and then we will move forward. Okay, people, now to go back to a question at hand. But before then, there's a quote here that says, a transformed food system serves as peace and stability. And I don't know how many of you will say yes or no to this. A transformed food system serves as checks and balances for human rights, good governance, peace, security, political stability. These are preconditions for a sustainable growth and development. By providing food which is accessible, affordable, and safe, as well as job opportunities for a growing population, food systems has the power to contribute to a food security, economic growth, and political stability. Thank you very much, everyone. I think and I believe this indeed is right in the step direction. I want to give just 1 or 2 minutes to our member from Friends for Leadership, Maya. Just for her, she recently organized a wonderful International Youth Day Summit for the Asia Pacific. And she's also a food systems hero. So Maya, if you could just say 1 or 2 words to everyone here, we are open to listen to you.
Oh, thank you so much, John Agri, for these words. It was a surprise for me that I will be a speaker on this session. Thanks a lot to all of you who just spoke about the food for African people, and of course to others. It's food security. It's the main topic nowadays, and according for the just before we just organized the day of celebration, International Youth Day, and of course it's dedicated to this topic also. That all of you are here, it's a big point, and it's a big opportunity to all people around the world, because all of you are responsible for changing it and how to protect and how to make this world better. And of course, I can say that this topic and also other topics, according for realizing SDGs, are the one of the important topics nowadays that we should realize. And of course, I want to thank many thanks give to our organizer, John Agri. Without him, we can't be here and we can discuss all these topics. And of course, our topic of today. Thanks a lot to all of you, and hope that this conversation will give more opportunities to all of us who can't know, for example, other information from your region, and we've just shared it. So online system is just giving us more opportunities as we see. Thanks a lot to our speakers for today. It was really amazing, and I've just got really new knowledge from them and from today's session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maya, for this. I really appreciate it. Okay, so before we go on to the next round, to the panelists for their final message and take-home message, I would want to open the floor for the participants. You are the reason we are here. So if any of the participants have a question for us, please don't ask me. But questions for the speakers, please, you can raise your hand using the emojis, or you can turn on your camera and wave at me, and then I'll give you the floor. Please be brief, just in 1 minute. You can put your questions, or you can put the questions in the chat, and then I will direct it to the relevant speaker. And yes, I love to throw in some surprises. I want it to be as natural as possible. So please, I will call on anyone. Yes, Maya, over to you.
Just take a chance to ask our honorable speaker, sorry for my pronunciation, Ibrahim. He just spoke about the food security, and I just interested, is there any kinds of organizations in your region or maybe communities who are just helping to realize this issue, or everything depends only on government, for example? Do you have this kind of information? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Will anyone want to answer this question? I think Oluwatosi has more insight. He's more versed in these areas. Olua, would you want to take this up for us?
Yes, please, John, come again, please. Sorry.
All right, so Maya wants to know if initiatives or programs or agendas, that is commitments, solely rely on government, or if there are other avenues where people engage, that we don't necessarily have to depend on government for what we need.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maya, for the question. Basically, food is central to us as humans. So on a norm, government is expected to, it's part of the social services government is supposed to render, but that is not the case in Africa. So every family fends for it or herself. Every family fends for themselves. So in that case, you see there's a difference in systems across regions. But on a norm, if we are to view it critically, food in itself should be a fundamental right of human, and it should be placed as such. But then in a broken system where you don't have that, each person, each family is supposed to also seek access to that food, except if we are in crisis situation where you have shortage of food, but then usually there used to be palliative to that effect. So coming down to the African setting now, where you don't have all of these options to take. So it is the government's responsibility, but the government failed. So it's now the responsibility of each family to fend for his or herself. And that's why there's a lot of gap in issues with food and every other issues affiliated to food in Africa. So that's why most of the time you find crisis, you find shortage of malnutrition in high risk places, you find vulnerabilities unfolding. And at the end of the day, you understand that these are the things that also causes each household to be kind of low on finances. So when you don't have the bargaining power, that is money or finance, to be able to get what you want, you then go for whatever you find around. And that's the case around here. So to your question, yes, it's the responsibility of the government to take care of our citizens. But in Africa, the case is not the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Very much, Oluwatosin, for that answer to the question. There is one question here we all need to, and that is what kind of commitments would we like to see coming from the member states at the Food System Summit? This is by Caroline at Food at Cup. Well, what I would like to add to this is, as we said, we are tired with the discussions. And this year, you can clearly see that the youth have had enough of the discussion points. Now it's more of action talks, action points, what must be done. So we believe member states need to be more bold. The unfortunate thing is that member states take their support or funding or commitment from powers that be. So they either succumb to decisions which do not favor them, just because at the end of the day, signatures are going to be appended on grants and loans. I want to put it out there to member states, especially from the developing countries. Please, it is time for you to own up to what you want. For the people, by the people, with the people, and not of what will keep you in power. Enough of the politics talk, enough of the politics play. Let's put the people at the center, at the focal point. Because at the end of the day, a government without the people is no government. So that means that each and every one of us is important. So this food system should not just be an ordinary every year show off, but it should be a summit where we own up to the people that, hey, we went there and we achieved this for you, and we are proud to do that. This is the commitment we want member states to take a stand on. Thank you. Anyone would want to add to that? I think there was a hand up. Yes, Ramina, yeah, please speak.
Sir, how are you? Just to add on top of the answers, I would love to say that the government should work with the people, and especially with organizations that have youths. Like for instance, yesterday we had a tree planting and also installation of kitchen gardening and awareness to the students here in Kisumu, Kenya. And this also, the event also happened here in Kisumu, Kenya, which involved some of the government officials, including the Ministry of Environment. So this shows us that if we could work together with our government, if the government can't step up for actions, we should make actions and also try to involve them in this, so that we as a country or as a nation or as the whole wide world would move forward in terms of making our food systems to be better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before you go off, since we are wrapping up, what is your final take-home message on that score? And after that, all the speakers will also have their final word. So what is your final message?
Well, my final message, Sorry for that. My final message to everyone is, despite your age, despite your color, despite your race, we should all come together and join hands in order to restore the ecosystems, in order to fight for what is right, in order to make the food system better, and in order to make those voices, the voiceless, to be heard through our voices. Thank you so much. And may I say a vote of thanks? I'd love to say a vote of thanks to Food at COP26 for making this global issue of food systems out there. Even here in Africa, people are trying to make other methods, to use other methods in order to go through the campaign, which is Food at COP26. They're really posting them on social media so that the campaign might also have a positive impact here in Africa. And this also involves one of the projects, which is using plastics to make kitchen gardens. Thank you so much.
I think I can smile for a while before I continue. I'm overwhelmed. Did you hear what she said? Despite our age, religion, where you come from, the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, the food systems is inclusive of everyone. And it is only when we come together that we can achieve the most. Thank you very much for today. Thank you very much. And I must say, Food at COP, I don't know how or where you found this inspiration. She has been an amazing speaker. And Caroline, please, let me see. Yes, she's here. Caroline, please, your final words to this.
My final words are, I want to hear more from Romina and others. This is so inspiring. I just want to say that I've learned so much from this conversation, from Ibrahim and Dean, who I didn't know before, and Maya, who I haven't met yet, but I want to follow up with everyone. And this is really, John, you've really pulled together a really interesting group. And if these people, if policymakers can listen and the public can listen to these people, I think we would be on a good way forward after the Food System Summit. Thank you so much.
Would you want to share with the participants how they can join Food at COP, and so that we can increase the member base, follow you on social media?
Look at you, John. Look at you. I'll paste it in the chat. Look at him.
Oh, okay. Maya doesn't
John,
want to speak, so everyone, let's head over to the chats and then go through the 1 million chats to locate what Maya and Caroline has put there. All right, sure. Thank you so much, and Caroline, for making time for us. Thank you so much, Ramina, for today. God bless you, everyone. And over to you, Dean, for your final message. Dean.
Hi, everyone. Hi again. Thank you so much for this enriching experience. I just wanted to, maybe in closing, probably just answer one of the questions about what do we do moving forward. And I was listening to some of the answers and I was quite inspired. However, in my personal experience, we live in a different world than we usually assume we live in. And I'd like to encourage everyone to also acknowledge that there's a need for, in as much want to work with governments, there's a need for governments to reimagine how they work. Because we remember, with all these fascinating ideas that we all might have, we live in a capitalist system that puts profit above all. We can plant as many trees as we want, we can launch as many food gardens as you want, but as long as we're still functioning in a system that's socially embedded on inequality, we will not seek the results that we want. And we need to, in as much as we want to improve solutions such as agroforestry, such as agroecology, we also have to have a bottom-up approach where we begin to actually change the system that the government is functioning in. We have to change the idea of profit accumulation. We have to change the idea of profit maximization, because it is only then we will then unlock a future where everyone can be safe, where everyone can be equal, because it's very hard to go to a multinational companies like Shell or Total and be like, you need to shut down your fossil fuel plants because it's harming the environment. If someone is making billions of dollars out of that industry, it's quite difficult. And especially if the government is also taking certain a certain percentage out of that certain sector, it's very hard to reimagine them actually fulfilling such agendas for us. So we also need to change the notion and change how we reimagine how we actually execute policies and how we actually enforce them, and how we can actually bring to the conversation in COP26 how governments must be held accountable and be transparent with certain frameworks, certain policies, with certain missions and visions that they have for their respective nationalities. I think that's what I want to leave people with, because I'm for that. You know, I'm for all the wonderful solutions, but I also want to evoke genuine change where people are not only bordered on a social fabric that we're currently embedded in, but we want to change that as well for a better future for everyone. That way we are not recycling inequality, but we're actually evoking a change that we all want to see. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dean. You did not tell us how to join,
Move, please.
how to become a climate reality leader, just as I was in some few months ago. Please share that sticky.
All right, so I work for an organization called the Africa Climate Reality Project. So the Climate Reality Project is one of the world's leading organizations dedicated to mobilizing action around climate change. So we are probably 5 million strong to date, with across networks across the world. But I'm specifically focused on the Africa department. So under the leadership of the Food and Trees for Africa, the Africa Climate Reality Project specific seeks to support climate reality leaders, governments, NGOs, and scientists across the continent to create tools and resources to support a network of African climate leaders who can mobilize their community and find solutions to climate change. So fundamentally, we'll also be hosting a training session, a global training session, where we'll be training new climate leaders under the stewardship of the former US President Al Gore. John, I will send out that application that you may also forward to your respective networks. Currently in Africa, we've trained over 1,200 climate leaders, and they have been planting trees, they've been launching food gardens, they've been doing wonderful work for us. So that's what ACRP is all about, and would be really great to have you all join. We'll send the information to John on how you can apply to be trained as a climate leader. I'm sure training will be in October, but it would be great to see some familiar faces there when the training kicks off. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that is a secret out of the bag. Thank you so much, Dean. And over to you, Emily, for your final words. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and apologies. I have my siblings here, but sister duties. So sorry for that. And yeah, I think my final word is like, first, it was really great to hear from all the speakers. Everyone said like really important things that I agree with, and I can't wait to like keep working together outside from here, maybe meet in different meetings and spaces, and to maybe in another Zoom meetings or webinars as well. And then thank you so much for organizing this, John, as well. It's much appreciated. I think that my last words is like, I hope that from here we all feel like a bit more energized, more happy, and like more inspired to be able to go and work together on these issues we have discussed, and working towards this system we want, like with climate friendly and low carbon food. We want to work towards like food sovereignty. We want to like train young people. We want to be able to have all this together. So let's keep working and connecting together, and let's try to make this a reality sooner than later. But let's push for this transformation, because we can do it. We have the ideas, we have the action. We just have to come together and have more resources and more voices, and we will have more power for it. But yeah, thanks all of you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Emily, also for that. And before we go, let me simply give a very big appreciation to this young man who has stood with us to do the sign language. He's actually a special education consultant and advocate for people living with disabilities. He's a social reformer and above all, a sign language interpreter. And it is amazing that, as we always say, leave no one behind. We are happy to have him share with us. On that score, I would like to acknowledge our event partners, Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture, Friends for Leadership, Food at COP, African Climate Reality Project, YOUNGO Agriculture Working Group, the Major Group for Children and Youth, that is the Youth Focus Group for the UN Food System Summit, and hosted by Hired Consult. Once again, I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who has made it here today. God bless you, take care, and see you at the summit. Enjoy your weekend and stay blessed and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.